this time, we always start open session with the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone will rise, and we have a young lady, Mother's from Northwestern, that's going to lead us in the pledge.
Now, I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Riley. Great job. I'd like to introduce everyone to our pledge student this evening. This is Riley Crippen. Riley is a fifth grader at Northwestern Elementary School. You did a great job. Thank you for being with us, Riley. Would you introduce your family and your school administrator to the group?
I'm here with my pop, Eddie Short, and my principal, Miss Imge from Northwestern.
Very nice.
Thank you. For the audience that's joining us tonight, we are recorded, so you're on TV. So just make sure everybody knows that. 3.2, approve of the agenda. I need a motion.
So moved.
I got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
A second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, same. 3.3. Again this month, we lost some of our family. Doris Baker, retired instructional assistant, Pittsfield Elementary and Middle. Ona Crockett Blades, retired teacher's aide, Westside Primary, West Salisbury, and East Salisbury. Norman Gravener, retired carpenter, maintenance. Betty Hamlin, retired teacher, Beaver Run. Frederick G. Livinggood, Jr., retired assistant superintendent, central office. And Pamela Truitt, food and nutrition services, satellite leader, Willards Elementary. At this time, in your own way, please have a moment of silence. Thank you. 3.4, our student representative of the board. And at the table tonight, from Parkside High School, Colleen Simpkinson. Let us know what's going on at Parkside.
I just wanted to thank you again for this opportunity to represent my wonderful school. It's always great to be able to come here every month and give a little update about the great things happening with the Ram Fam at Parkside. Just want to say how thankful we were as students to receive the days off that we had. It was, we were very appreciative of it. We understand that it was really severe weather, and we were very thankful for the students that were not put in a position to walk or travel to school those days, and we wanted to give our thanks for that. So Parkside has had a lot going on, even though we haven't been in school the month of December that much. Last time we talked about different things that were coming up, our holiday concerts, our tournaments, and I wanted to highlight our students, the audience that we had during our holiday concerts. It was an in-school assembly, and it was the best audience we've ever had. And it's been a great improvement from the beginning of the school year, just all the students just being very respectful of those performing. And it was a really great time, and it was really wonderful to highlight the talents of our students. We recently, this is our first year having an FBLA club, which is Future Business Leaders of America. It's the first year the club's been at our school, and they went to a Region 3 conference, And they went thinking, it's our first year, we won't do that great. We're just thankful to be invited. And 2 of our students ended up placing in 2nd and 3rd place. It was Trevin Vasquez and Faith Hickman from our school, and they are now going to states. So we want to congratulate them on their accomplishments. We had the wrestling tournament at Parkside, and the Parkside team won the team title, and 9 of our students either placed in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, or 4th place, which is very high for them. We congratulate them. Also, our robotics team, they hosted their first VEX, which is a type of robot. I don't really know that much about them. But it was their first holiday tournament. 21 teams came in to participate from both Maryland and Delaware, and the Parkside High School team won a design award. So we'd like to congratulate them also. So I think what you guys are looking forward to hearing is about the construction at Parkside. It was incredible coming back from winter break into a brand new upper wing. The school, we noticed a morale change in the students. They were a lot more excited to come to a school that looked like it belonged in the century. It was really great. The carpets have been removed to this beautiful new tile floors that they just amazed me. And my mom, she graduated from Parkside. She was both very joyous and very jealous when she saw that the orange lockers were replaced with green ones. We have brand new HVAC, which is incredible. The temperature is very comfortable upstairs, and students are able to be more productive in their work because they're not worried, oh, it's too hot in this room and then it's really cold in this one. So that's been really positive. And the lighting is a lot better in all the classrooms. So we're excited to have a new semester starting off in those classrooms. So we're very thankful. The downstairs in L Wing is now under construction, which is going to go under the same process as our upper wing. We're looking forward to that. So that's all closed off. That causes new routes for the students to have to go to class, which there was some adjustments that were made, but we didn't really have a problem with students being late to class. So that was so wonderful. We have our auditorium under renovation right now. They're planning to get new HVAC and lighting in there as well. We're really looking forward to that. We're trying to see maybe if we can update the furniture in there too, just maybe as a possibility, since it's been there since the 70s. But it's been great to see the teachers and staff and the students working together, because there are complications with spring performances and concerts and plays, but we always work together as a team at Parkside, so we're looking forward to enduring that together. We really are just so proud of our school and so proud with how beautiful it's becoming, and you can really see how excited the students are coming to a brand new beautiful school, so we thank you for that.
Well, thank you. From James M. Bennett, we have Rachel Burley in tonight. How are you, Rachel? Ron, you're replacing Ron tonight, huh?
I am. My name is Rachel Burley. I am the 2nd Vice President for James M. Bennett's SGA Executive Board, and I'm subbing in for Rowan, who has rock and roll practice, which I will get to shortly. But right now, so the SGA and different clubs decorated for Christmas, different Christmas trees that were then donated to families in need by the Leo Club. And our Leo Club just does community service events for the community and the families at Bennett. Our SMART team created signs placed in the hallways saying Happy Holidays in several languages like Spanish, Korean, and Arabic. If you don't know, our SMART team stands for Solutions for Multicultural Achievements and Recognitions Team. Additionally, Bennet's academic team placed first in the December competition, and Allison Saylor and Christina Sun made all-state choirs, so congratulate them. Currently, we successfully finished park testing, but we are doing makeups throughout the week in the Media Center. Additionally, about our Leo Club, our members volunteered at a Martin Luther King breakfast yesterday to celebrate youth and supporting their dreams, so I congratulate them. And right now, we're getting in gear for Rock and Roll Revival. Everyone is extremely, extremely busy with rehearsals. They're all so committed, and they love performing so much for the community. So I'm so proud of them. And if you don't know, our shows are February 9th, 10th, and 11th, and then next weekend, 15, 16, 17, and 18. And then finally, we're getting our whole school ready for basketball season. We're looking forward to our Spirit Week. We're going to have class clashes and war class clashes and class wars for our Spear Week, and we're also going to have a pep rally for basketball season.
Thank you.
Thank you.
From Mardella, Keith Flagg. Is Keith here tonight? Okay, I don't see him. From Y-High, Nicholas Nugent, how are you?
I'm doing well. How is everyone doing today?
Fine. Happy New Year to you.
Thank you. My name is Nicholas Wynn, and I'm honored to represent Wicomico High School today. I hope everyone had a relaxing winter break that was spent with family and loved ones. On the topic of winter break, the Wicomico High School National Honor Society volunteered at numerous locations on December 19th and 21st. The first volunteer event was bell ringing for the Salvation Army in the mall. Passing walkers were treated to NHS members singing Christmas carols and playing the violin. On the morning of the 21st, NHS members once again volunteered for the Salvation Army at Project Angel Tree, where they guided participants through the whole process. From carrying gifts to loading food boxes into cars, members of the NHS, Spanish NHS, Y-High's girls basketball team, and other members of the community lent a hand to those in need. NHS members traveled to the Holly Center later that night and brought the Christmas spirit to the residents, thereby singing more Christmas carols and dressing up as elves and ornaments. Many members said the smiles they saw were something that they could never forget. On January 11th, Wicomico High School's varsity boys basketball team advanced to 11-0 at the game against James and Bennett High, making us currently the best basketball team in the Southern Bayside Division. We are so proud of not only our boys basketball team, but also our girls basketball, wrestling, track and field, and unified strength and conditioning teams who have each had successes in their seasons. Amidst of all the snow, there was confusion on when park testing was being conducted. I like to recognize Y-High's office staff for calling every park tester and their families to make sure that they would come prepared on January 11th and 12th, which led to a great park attendance. Our guidance department manned a basketball concession stand before winter break in order to raise money for reduced-priced AP tests. With each AP test costing $92, it can be a financial burden on students who have 4, 5, or even more AP classes, and wish to gain college credit. The students, including myself, are very grateful for guidance's efforts to make AP testing affordable. We have not had many school days since break, but Wicomico High School is still bustling like before. We are excited to bring on the second semester. Thank you so much for having me. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas.
Nicholas, I think there's a basketball game this coming Saturday with the alumni going to play.
Mm-hmm. We are very excited, and
I think Mr. Butler's going to be participating.
We are very excited to see him play.
No hanging on the rim there, Paul.
Thank you, students. 3.5, public comments, and I don't have any in front of me. Moving on, 3.6, superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald. I have a number of items tonight as part of my report. We'll start with a very positive presentation. I hope some of these students are here to be recognized. Our school system, the Wicomico County Public School System, received from the state the Heroin and Opioid Prevention Grant from the Maryland State Department of Education this year. And with this funding, health teachers worked together to conduct an art contest at each secondary school. The high school winners have been selected, and they are here to show their designs. The designs are down in front of us, and I would like to recognize those students and their teachers if they are present. I'd also like to recognize Mr. Thompson, Mr. Nicholas Thompson, who's the supervisor of health and physical education, whose leadership really made this happen. So thank you, Mr. Thompson. And we have also Gerald Brody with us, who's a health teacher at Wicomico High School. Gerald, thank you for your leadership in this project.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
We haven't finished yet.
We haven't. So do we have any of our students with us this evening?
There's one in the door.
One in the door. Great. Let me get some certificates. If you want to come down front. And I will announce who the winners were, and you can let me know who you are. You're Lauren. Okay. All right. So we'll start with Wicomico High School and just announce who these students are. And we have another one. Great. Okay. So from Wicomico High School, as I indicated, Mr. Brody is the teacher there, and the student is Bailey Caldwell. Is that Bailey? Congratulations, Bailey. Which one is your work? Right here on the end. Thank you so much. If you want to stay with us. And from Mardella Middle and High School, the teacher is Mrs. Linda Nestor, and the student is Isabel Ortiz. Is Isabel with us this evening? Okay, well, we congratulate Isabel and Ms. Nestor as well. From James M. Bennett, the teacher is Ms. Julie Morrow and Kathy Elliott, and the student is Lauren Illa. So congratulations very much, Lauren. And which one is your art? Right here. Very nice. Very nice. Thank you. And finally, from Parkside High School, the teacher, the health teacher there, responsible for the project is Mrs. Allison Vannon, and the student from Parkside is Rachel Donaway. Rachel is not with us this evening either, but we appreciate you taking the time to come out this evening, and Mr. Brody for coming out this evening and your leadership, as I indicated, in this project. Mr. Thompson and Mr. Brody, would you come down front for a picture with us?
Sure, be glad.
So you maybe want to hold your
This is the Wild High shirt. This is the back of it. We have 4 in the county. And we also have the high school name in the front. And Michael's donated the framing. It didn't cost us anything. And they did a super job on it. And we also have some additional donations towards our project.
Are the students wearing the t-shirts?
They're wearing the t-shirts on the 19th. Matter of fact, we're going to take a group picture at Wicomico High School at 10:30. And we're trying to highlight it. So what we want to try to do is allow the students to get in their homes and talk to their parents. You take a t-shirt home, what would you say to your child? What's that? The conversation started. And it's very difficult for some of our students to talk to their parents about this kind of information. But you know it's a real problem in our society. Every day I hear something new about it, and it's not good. So we're going to get it stopped. We're going to whack it out.
I like the sound of that.
Thank
That's
you.
great. Thank
All
you
right,
so
so let's
much.
have you all scoot in. All right, everybody, smile. Take a couple. One more. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming out to be with us. Also, as part of my report, more fun news, if you will. Tonight we have our monthly Extra Mile Awards that Mr. Butler has provided leadership in this initiative. And so I'm going to turn it over to you, Mr. Butler, to recognize our Extra Mile winners for this month.
Thank you, Dr. Hanlon. I appreciate it. Each month we recognize 2 employees who have gone the extra mile, so to speak. They go above and beyond their daily duties. And this year we have, this month, we have 2 more winners who we want to recognize. This is for the month of December for putting in some extra work, and we have 2 outstanding recipients of this month. The first one is Michelle Richardson. She's an instruction assistant at Chipman Elementary School. Here's what was said about Michelle. She's a special education assistant at C.H. Chipman Elementary School. Now, the reasons for her deserving this recognition are endless. She is willing to cover anyone else's job if asked. More importantly, if she sees a need, she just steps in and fills it. She can cover any duty in the day because she has done all the duties at one time or the other. She will alert the administration if she sees that someone somewhere needs some assistance. Michelle knows all the children by name and takes the time to say good morning, good afternoon, good night at days. She brings in supplies for children using her own money, and she even packs a special lunch for children going on field trips. And they say that Chipman is certainly a better place because Michelle teaches in their building, and she was nominated by Mary Funk. So I want to bring up Michelle Richardson, our first Extra Mile winner of the month. Congratulations. Don't go anywhere. We got a picture we want to take with you. If you can go stand beside Dr. Hanlon right there. Congratulations, Michelle. And our second nominee and recipient this month is Ari Johnson. She's a student advisor at Pinehurst Elementary School. Mrs. Ari Johnson provides small and whole group character education lessons for grades K through 2. Many times she can be called upon to de-escalate a student's behavior, and within minutes she has the student back in class. In December, Pinehurst has their Christmas Angel Project. Now, Mrs. Johnson encourages staff members to adopt a student or students and purchase clothing, toys, other essential items for students. She also coordinates with the community organizations who support the Pinehurst Christmas Angel by making donations and provides these children and families with the Christmas, that is, that they would not normally have. Now, this year, Pinehurst was able to adopt, listen to this, 100 students for their Christmas Angel Project, and Mrs. Johnson's efforts enhance the commitment to the individual child, and that Pinehurst truly is a family, and she was nominated by Regina Rando and Kevin Smith. So we want to welcome up Ari Johnson as our other extra mile. Congratulations. Congratulations.
So precious.
And there's a stand inside you.
Still clap.
That's so sweet.
He's proud of this. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Thank you, Mr. Butler. It's always such a pleasure to recognize our dedicated staff, and we do appreciate all that you do with our students. So my third item is a little more serious, a little more business-like, and that is to discuss with the board some recommended changes to this year's calendar based upon our recent snowstorm. As you know, we missed 5 days of school based upon the, trying to remember the winter storm name. Thank you, Grayson. Based upon Grayson. And the first 2 days of that storm, the governor did declare a state of emergency in the 3 lower shore counties. Some public understand or believe that those days are automatically excused. They are not automatically excused. We have to ask for those days to be excused. So I am recommending to the board that you make an adjustment to the calendar pending state board approval. So nothing will change until after we hear back from the state. The first recommendation that I'm making is that you allow me to seek that waiver to adjust the school calendar to excuse 2 of those 5 days. Now, with that waiver to adjust the school calendar, that makes us at this date and time square. We will have made up the days that we needed to make up. But I'm also trying to anticipate what we would do in the event if we had more school closures. And the reason I need to do this is because the state board has to approve adjustments to the calendar, as I previously discussed, or approve if we are seeking the ability to go to school on a holiday. That is my last choice to do that, but I do want us to be prepared in case. So the letter that I would write to the state board would not only ask them to waive the calendar, to excuse those 2 days, to waive the 2 days that I've previously discussed, but to also give us a conditional approval to go to school on President's Day should we have additional snow. However, in addition to that, that President's Day I would be suggesting that we use that on our second day. And if you scroll up, you'll see in chart form really what I'm talking about. If you look at the chart, the first row is the current status, where I'm asking that we seek approval to waive those 2 days. With 1 additional day of closure, and all of this depends on the timing if we were to be closed, my next choice would be that we would bring students in on a day that is now considered a full professional day, that we bring students to school on the 29th, but with an early dismissal to allow for the grading day for teachers on that day, with a half a day for that. And then a second day, we would then use this waiver if we get it from the state board for President's Day. That only takes us 2 days beyond what we currently, pending the waiver for the adjustment to the calendar. So it's a little confusing, but I shared it briefly with the board earlier, and so I'm seeking your approval to adjust the calendar as I've described, pending state board approval. So I need a motion.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
No discussion?
No discussion.
All right. Very good. Thank you. And I will let you know as soon as I hear back. And of course, I know the community and public will want to know when we get word back about any of the requests for calendar adjustments. So as soon as we have that information, we will certainly communicate it to the community. The next item that I had is a brief conversation that I believe the board is interested in having, and that we started a conversation last board meeting, actually in closed session based upon a specific issue, about our current background check policy. And there seemed to be at least one board member who was interested in the policy committee reviewing our current background background check policy, sorry. So I wanted to give the board an opportunity to share their thoughts about any kind of an adjustment. Mr. Palmer, I know you were particularly interested in that, and I think the idea would be that if the board were came to consensus, we would then take that back to the policy committee for review and come back to you with suggestions. But I'm opening it up to board discussion about whether you'd like to see that policy reviewed and or revised.
I personally would like to see it just reviewed to see if it's up to date and it's what everybody wants in its current form. Right now, there might be a little room for improvement as to what has recently happened. So I think I would like to see it brought up just for discussion.
I think because of, other board members, new board members, I think maybe we need to do that. And, if there's something we need to tweak, then we do it. I think that's consensus.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Along with that, I'd like to have information about the cost. If there's any recommendation to have additional background checks, that financial cost be accompany that report.
Okay, so I'm hearing consensus by the board. We will take that before the policy committee and come back with you with our recommendations. And as you know, at least 2 board members sit on that policy committee. Mr. Turner and
It's Bill and Mike.
Bill and Mike.
okay, Bill and Mike. So we will, after convening, come back with recommendations. And I believe my last item is our grants report from Mrs. Jones.
Good evening.
Good evening.
During the month of December, we had 4 grants that were submitted, totaling $44,433. One to the Salisbury Wicomico Arts Council, one to the Chesapeake Bay Trust, one to the Robert Wood Foundation that was actually submitted in partnership with the Migrant Clinicians Network, and also one to the Community Foundation of the Eastern Shore. There were 5 grants that were funded in December, totaling $304,434, 3 from the Maryland State Department of Education, and you can read down through those of which ones were funded, 1 to the Dart Foundation, and 1 from the Rotary Club of Salisbury. We did have 2 that were not funded, totaling $1,400. You can see the breakdown for the State Department of Education grants, the non-state grants, and a combination of funds requested year to date total $2,910,180.61, and funds acquired total $2,749,114, and 61 cents. And I stand for any questions.
94.47%. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
It is wonderful.
Very much.
I didn't have a question, but I wanted to comment with the rest of the board. I'm going to look at Bruce to confirm my assessment of this. At our budget orientation meeting, we were talking about the fact that the grants that come in don't fall under the purview of the board's budget approval process. Is that correct, my assessment of that?
The approval process being brought to the board in public session at this point.
Yeah.
Right, where the board can say they approve or
not approve of accepting a grant.
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay. And I guess during the rest of our budget work sessions, I would like to just revisit that to make sure I understand that fully in the future. In particular, large grants, just so I understand if there's a financial impact, how many, especially multiple years and certain large amounts, and how the board is able to assess the impact on the school system. And I think just having a further discussion about that at this point would be, I think, something we should probably do during our work sessions.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes the report.
Okay. 4.1. Approval of the open session minutes of December the 5th work session and December the 12th regular meeting. I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
I got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Got a second. Any discussion? Everyone's had the opportunity to look them over. Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Against. Same. Thank you. 5.1 down to 5.5 are consent items. Everyone has had the opportunity to look over all of them. As we've done in the past, if you have a question, now is the time to bring them up, and we vote all of them at one time. The only comment I have, and Mark's here if he wants to come down. evening. One of the comments, and I think it's been answered, but is 5.3 about the Home Depot,
Yes.
about the date.
Yes.
And I understand that it looks like we've had it for a year, but now we're just voting on it. So I just want you to be able to clarify that.
Yeah, that's the date that the contract was awarded by the cooperative contract that we're following.
Okay.
So now is when we're finding it and deciding to go ahead and recommend utilizing the contract within our system.
Because it's beneficial to us.
Because it's beneficial to us, yes.
Okay. And the other one, while you're sitting there, unless someone else has another comment.
Don, I just had a question on some clarification on 5.4. What was the purpose of the termination, so that everybody understands?
Yeah, that's what I was.
That was on my list too.
Right.
I know it was.
Basically, what happened was, as you can see, the contract scope of work materially changed, and because the power purchase agreement is basically based on what we contracted to do, which was the 2.4 meg system there, when it was reduced by Delmarva Power to a 0.3 gig system, or 0.3 meg system, excuse me, it became financially infeasible to do. The equipment to actually transmit the energy doesn't really change. So it really just became not feasible to continue. We had the land to put it on, it just, Delmarva Power did not have the infrastructure to support that type of production in the Willards area.
So I guess what happens with the equipment?
It was virtual.
Okay.
It was still in design.
Okay. Okay. That answers my question.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for consent to accept the consent items.
Motion to approve the consent items.
I got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I got a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Against, same. Thank you. 6.1. Upon the recommendation of the superintendent, is there a motion to approve the second and final reading of the 2018-2019 Wicomico County Public Schools calendar as modified based upon public comments received? Is there a motion?
Can I just ask a comment, or do you want the motion first?
Discuss it after we had the motion.
Okay.
Move to approve.
I got a motion and a second. Okay, discussion. Mr. Turner.
Yeah, I know we all received emails. I just wanted to make sure publicly that the public knows that there was an adjustment specifically related to one particular date that was requested to move a professional day to a Friday, and just reflective of the school board's willingness to listen to input from the public. And I think it's important we just share that, since it was so frequently made to us. So.
And I also agree that, I think we get sometimes a bad rap that we don't listen, but we do. And it's from everybody, and that's the employees in the community. And this is a situation where they spoke and we listened. So again, kudos to the people that looked at this calendar and give us suggestions.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Mrs. Miles for her leadership in this area and for reviewing those public comments and making recommended adjustments. So, thank you very much.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Against, same. Thank you. 6.2. Upon the recommendation of the superintendent, there's a motion to approve public hearings to be held to discuss the community recommendations for balancing middle school enrollment. And I think we had some dates to go along with that, don't we?
We do. So,
I need a motion.
So moved.
Got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
A second. Discussion.
Okay, so let me give some background here for thank you. For the public's information. We've been working on a superintendent's recommendation, and I'd like to go through and explain that to you now, basically what the issue is and how we are proposing, or I am proposing to the board at this point, to solve this issue. Right now, what you see on screen is current and projected enrollment at Bennett Middle School. Currently, the state-rated capacity, and I can't read the fine print, but it's just over 1,100.
1114.
Thank you, 1114. They are just under state-rated capacity, but I think staff and students and parents would tell you it's crowded, and it's crowded compared to other middle schools. So we've been listening and we've been considering what we can do. If we do nothing, what you're going to see happen is what you see in that blue line. And that's because right now there is an enrollment bubble, that's what we call it, a large group of students in the 5th grade. And unfortunately, those 5th graders all feed into Bennett Middle School. Or I won't say all, but a large majority of those students, that bubble, feeds into Bennett Middle School. And if we do nothing, that's what's going to happen, and that is not a good situation at all. So I am proposing to the board at this point a two-pronged approach for resolving this issue. One is programmatic, and the other has to do with minor boundary adjustments. So let me just share with you briefly the programmatic part of this initiative. I've been talking since I've been here about part of my vision is that especially in our middle and high schools, that we have opportunities for students to have school choice where they can go to school based upon areas of interest. They might be signature programs or academies, and we're going to start that initiative next year at Salisbury Middle School. We're going to start it with a middle school Project Lead the Way program, or we are very close to exploring that. Obviously, there are budget implications, and that will be part of the budget process. But I believe strongly that students need to be exploring, engaged in their curriculum in areas that they have a passion for. Our Project Lead the Way program in our high schools is very successful. Many students want to get into those programs. It's a national program, very highly respected across the country. And there is a middle school Project Lead the Way program, the Gateway program, that feeds into that program. So my recommendation will be, and through the work of Mr. Briggs and a task force, that we begin that program next year at Salisbury Middle School as our first signature program with 50 students to begin with. Those 50 students would be next year's 6th graders, and they would come from any middle school. The following year, 50 more 6th graders, because that first group of 50 would be 7th graders, and the third year, the program would be fully enrolled with 150 students in that program. This is the first of many signature programs that I want to introduce. But I believe that it is a well-respected, as I said, program that will serve our students well in STEM and engineering fields. So that program itself, just next year with 50 students, all 50 of those students, back to our issue, all 50 of those students will not come from Bennett Middle necessarily, but we will take students proportionally by middle school. And so you can imagine that in 3 years out, that it will help to solve this issue with the proportion of Bennett Middle School students enrolling in this Project Lead the Way program. Still doesn't solve our problem. So I knew we needed to do more, which comes to the second strategy, or the second approach to solving this problem. And as I said, that is with a minor excuse me, a minor boundary line adjustment. I will say I don't like to use the word redistricting, but I said it once. You heard me say it once. I am not talking about a major redistricting initiative. I think that's really, really important to recognize. I'm talking about in the middle school area and in a very condensed area, or with very minor changes. So what I am recommending to the board, and the board will not be voting on how do I move that forward? I can't see my my cursor. Oh, there it is. Oh, I just roll it.
Wrong one. Don, give me your.
Sorry. All right. So, thank you. I should have just let you do it. That's not where. Okay. So, before I go into this, let me just remind you that this is a superintendent's recommendation at this point. The board will not vote on this tonight. The board will not vote on it until after we have held public hearings, and that's basically what I'm asking the board's approval to hold public hearings tonight. But this is our recommendation. We looked at natural boundary lines, and if you look at the area to the west, to the northwest of the Wicomico River, that is a very dense area that currently those students who go to school at Bennett Middle School, which is down at the bottom of that map, you can't even see Bennett Middle School. Those students currently attend Bennett Middle. They're much closer to Salisbury Middle School. Those students all currently go to Pemberton Elementary. They are the only group of students who do not go to Salisbury Middle. They are the only group who go from Pemberton to Bennett Middle. I am recommending that those students, especially considering since the move, Bennett Middle geographical move, they're even further from Bennett Middle now. So I'm recommending that those approximately 90 students would go to Salisbury Middle. At the same time, I am recommending the other area that you see, and that borders on Snow Hill Road. That group of students is about 60 students, and I am recommending that those students, again, much closer to Y Middle, you see the blue schoolhouse, that's Y Middle. Wicomico Middle School. They're much closer to Wicomico Middle School for the most part than they are to Bennett Middle School. So I am recommending that boundary line adjustment happen. So we're talking about 150 students that beginning next year, with the board's approval, would be moved from Bennett Middle School to alleviate this potential overcrowding. One of the important factors that I want the board to know and the community to know is that this does not impact those students' high school. They continue to go to the same high school they would have gone to. Doesn't change their high school. Doesn't change their elementary school. Doesn't change their high school. It only changes their middle school. It makes where they're going to go to school much closer, a shorter transportation ride. So that is my recommendation. Staff, did I leave anything out? I was going off the top of my head and not from notes. So, pardon me? Oh, thank you. Another factor that we considered and we knew we needed to look at was the teacher-student class size, the ratio of teachers to students. Currently at Bennett Middle School, on average, it's 24-25 on average in an English class. Whereas currently at Salisbury Middle and Y Middle, it's below 20. So this would correct that as well. It would, as I call this whole initiative, balance our middle school enrollment. So, in fact, using the right mouse, this is what the outcome would be. What you see, the blue line at the bottom is the current enrollment at Salisbury Middle School, and the red line at the top is their state-rated capacity. You can see how they are under-enrolled at Salisbury Middle School just based upon where students live in our county. By making this adjustment, you can see with the gray line, we will be moving that school's still below state-rated capacity, but closer. And this is what would happen at Wicomico Middle School. Again, the blue line is current. The red line is their state-rated capacity. The gray line is what would happen with the adjustment of those 60 students. and then this is what happens. This is the great change that we would see at Bennett Middle School. The blue line is what would happen if we did nothing. The red line is state-rated capacity. The gray line is what happens when we make these adjustments. And this does not consider the students who will be involved in the first part that I described to you, the students who would choose from different middle schools to go to the Project Lead the Way program at Salisbury Middle School. So what I can't emphasize enough that this is still a superintendent's recommendation. All I am seeking from the board right now is your approval to go out to the public, to these families, and hold 2 hearings, one on January the 25th and one on January the 29th. We would hold them. We're talking, we haven't finalized this, but in locations that would be geographically appropriate for those families. We would be sending personal letters and using school messenger to invite families to these hearings where we can listen to their feedback about these potential changes. Board members will be invited to attend those hearings so you can hear firsthand families' comments, pros and cons, and then I'll be coming back to you at the February board meeting asking for your approval.
So that would include 5th grade families
Thank
that
you.
could be part of the programmatic option to move. So it's essentially any 5th grade family in the school system.
I wouldn't probably be in the first, these first hearings are really, although I will share with them that first part of the strategy, this is really to talk more about the boundary adjustments, and then we'll go more publicly school system wide with the programmatic initiative. The other thing I wanted to mention was that with your approval, my recommendation is that as staff uses the term, we want to pull the Band-Aid off. We want to do this beginning next year with all students in those neighborhoods, all rising 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. However, we would allow 8th graders, next year's 8th graders, to be grandfathered in if they wish to. If they wish to continue attending Bennett Middle School, if they can provide their own transportation, we would consider that.
So
I'm sorry, go ahead. The presentations, the 2 presentations are going to be identical and not
That's
tailored
correct.
just to the area, right?
That's correct.
Okay,
About the
thanks.
same. Bill?
No, good. So we're only going to approve the public hearings.
Yes,
Right.
that's what
Or-
I'm
okay.
looking for a motion to approve my ability to hold public hearings.
That's what the,
Oh, and you already.
yeah, we got, yeah, any other discussion?
And the public hearings are going to be in the schools related to
Yes.
area.
Would you be? I know this is a curriculum question,
Sure.
but about the program you're talking about starting, will that come back to us again for further questions or
Sure.
for explanations?
Yep, we'll be happy to
some-
present that in more detail.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about how many classes that would
Sure.
be, what's
Yep.
50
Yeah.
students,
We can
is
do
it a
that.
pulled out program, et cetera? Okay, great, thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, same. Thank you.
Thank you.
6.3, personnel matters. Informational only. We do not have to vote on this, and I think everybody's had the opportunity to go over them in closed session. Moving along, 7.1, board members' reports. Mr. Palmer, I'm going to let you go first tonight.
I don't have an official report, but I would just like to give some kudos to a couple of areas that's in the physical plant and the physical plant facilities. I get around to a number of the schools on the weekends when I can get the opportunity, and I've been around to a couple of them, and one of them I've noticed a very big improvement in the parking lot, one of our early learning centers. And last year when I visited, I turned into the parking lot, and my car went down about a foot because of the holes in the parking lot. Well, the parking lot has been completely regraded, filled with stones. It's much bigger than it actually was because it was overgrown with grass. The car parking boundaries are there, and they are properly staked down so they won't move when you get up against them. So that was a fantastic job. And yesterday afternoon, I rode over to Choices, an area of interest, and I noticed some great lights being put up over there in the new parking lot that they have where that one building was demoed. They got it graded back there. Got a lot of lights back there now for safety purposes. Got lights behind the building. Now these are all, they look like double LED lights, so I know they're going to put out a lot of illumination in that area for safety. So to those areas that don't get a lot of recognition, I'd like to say thank you.
Mr. Murray.
I would just like to kind of start and say during the month of December, I tried to get out to many of the programs, the holiday programs at the school, and I was able to get 14 of them, high school and elementary. And I was running quite a bit, but I enjoy that. I love seeing the schools as they participate in those different things. Always, I enjoy the comments from our seniors here, the high schools. I know at Parkside, I know you're very happy with that second floor when everyone went back. I can relate to that when I said there in the HVAC. Also with Bennett with the rock and roll, that's a big thing coming up. And at Y High with the bell ringing at the mall, I think that's fantastic and the things you do. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Malone.
And Michaels took some of my thunder, but that's okay because it was all good. So I wanted to say thank you to Colleen, Rachel, and Nicholas for what you all do. Just as being leaders in the schools. And then tonight, I guess my report changed after I heard from Mr. Brody about the opioids and the heroin epidemic. By coincidence, I read a lot about that over the holidays for whatever reason. I was reading about it. And at this point, I think in December, what I read was that deaths from opioids and heroin have passed breast cancer as far as deaths in this country, which is, we got to figure this out as a country, but as a county, I really applaud you, Mr. Brody, and the others who are involved with it. And our student leaders are the ones who can lead us and have other students follow you and not doing this. But this is something that we got to figure out, and it's great that our public school system is involved with that. It just points to the community and to all of us what quality students and teachers we have who have figured this out, that it's a huge issue, and we're tackling it head on and trying to figure it out. So kudos to all of you, and thank you for what you do on that. We got to, as you said, there's more work to be done. We got to keep doing this.
This is across the county. Matter of fact, Kingsville is involved, and the middle schools are involved. The middle schools, we couldn't afford T-shirts. If I could afford them, they would get them. But they are doing a poster contest, and each of these posters here was judged by a rubric. My classroom, I had 5. The students in the classroom walked around and figured out which one they liked. They did a rubric on that particular poster, and they had a ticket to vote for that poster. Then we had 5 to go to 3 judges. Those 3 judges used the rubric to determine which poster they wanted to represent their school, and then those posters were turned into a T-shirt. I just want you to know it's across the county, meaning that the middle school people are involved, elementary involved, and high school. And I'm hoping to do that again the second semester. I do not have the money for the T-shirts, but quietly, I'm going to work on funding. So if you have some money that way, we can use it. And it's local. You're not going to New York, you're not going to California to order any shirts. Everything is right here in Salisbury, Wicomico County, because we want that money to go back to our people.
Thank you.
We applaud you. Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Mr. Brown.
Okay. Over the holidays, I had an opportunity to go to the Governor's Challenge basketball over at the Civic Center and at the 2 high schools. And I guess I want to say kudos to our kids. It was very interesting to see. We had over 150 different teams from all over the United States, and actually 2 teams from Canada. And the thing that struck me the most was that these kids were mannery. They were enjoying themselves, and they were involved in the games and working with the kids. So somewhere out there across the country in Wicomico County, we're doing something right. These kids, and there was not a problem in either place that they had the games, and it was really pleasant to see them. If you went to the door and they were there to open the door for you, or if you said something to them, they would say thank you or please. So that was very, very interesting and very pleasing to see going on. The second thing is that I've had a number of comments from parents who were very pleased to hear that the schools were going to be closed early on, the night before, because this really helps in a big way with parents who have to look toward getting some kind of daycare for those kids. So that's a big plus factor, and also getting it on the television as well as the chain calls as early as possible. Now, having been in that position before, I know what it's like. But those two things, I'm really pleased to see that, especially our kids, how well behaved they are. And it just goes to show that sports are a really important part of a kid's school life. You know, it's really an asset that we have the kind of sports programs that we do. It gives them somewhere to go, something to do, something constructive, and keeps them out of trouble.
Thank you. Mr. Turner?
Sure. I'm not sure we talked enough about this, but in late November, early December, we met with our auditors, and they provided us with a management letter post-audit, and I just wanted to publicly comment on that. And what a management letter does is they look at weaknesses in the school system, they make recommendations of changes they'd like to see, and they had no comments. They were very pleased with the controls that were in place, and that's really, you look at an organization this size, $200+ million budget, that's really significant, and I'm really pleased with that, Mr. Ford, and all your group's efforts to do that. It's exceptional. And then earlier today, we met with the county council in an open work session, and then we've been very public about next year's calendar, got feedback, made some changes, and I know as a board, it seems like things happen really fast. We really zip through things, so you're not here all night. But we really work hard, and I know Dr. Hanlon and the staff feel the same way about being transparent, and that, you know, what we see, you all pretty much see. You know, we want everybody to know what's going on. The financial statements and otherwise are right there on the website, and I think it's really important that we communicate, we listen, and we be very transparent about both finances and curriculum decisions and other things that are decisions made by the board. And I'm just really pleased with how that's gone so far.
Well, thank you. Well, Thursday night I had the opportunity to go out to the central office to hear some students put on a presentation about honeybees. And I didn't get to stay for the whole evening because I had another engagement. But to listen to these young ladies put on the presentation, and Mr. Briggs was there, and what they have gone through on their own, and they did part of this while being home in the snow. And the teacher was there really praising how much work these young ladies had put into it. And just like the students here tonight, to see that makes what we do day in and day out worthwhile. I know that I've said it and I get on a soapbox, but it's the students of this county that I'm concerned about. And I'm going to do everything I can to help them out. And just for the seniors that are here, keep up the good work. And for James M. Bennett, I've got my tickets. Any other comments? Hearing none, meeting adjourned. Board members, we need to go into closed session for a short period.